Today is going to be juicy. We're talking about age gaps and about dating someone younger or older, the pros and cons, and where I would personally draw the line. So firstly, I will say that age gaps aren't necessarily a red flag. It's just that they can sometimes magnify things. And what I mean in that is that obviously the pros can be great. The pros can include, different perspectives and experiences, complementary energy, that polarity, which, is very magnetic in relationships and can be a good thing, and a mix of emotional steadfastness and youthful optimism. That kind of good balance of playful and sensible energy. But sometimes the cons are maturity mismatches, the fact that you're at different life stages with different desires for your life at that moment, and more seriously, there could be weird power imbalances or dynamics if not handled carefully. And then on a lighter note, you might not get the same pop cultural references. You might not enjoy the same music or have had the same experiences of pop culture and media growing up. And that could make cultural private jokes a bit harder. But that is not to say that it can't work. Let's look at some celebrity couple examples. So George and Amal Clooney, they have a 17-year age gap. I think Amal met George when she was like 35, and he was obviously 17 years older than 35. And they're a couple that are really respected and looked up to. And here is why I think the Clooneys work, because they have shared values around justice, integrity, and purpose. Amal also really knew who she was before marriage, so she really was secure in her own identity. So it wasn't like the 17-year age gap was going to completely, take her away from her kind of path or her own personhood. She wasn't going to get lost in that because she already had a really firm foundation. And funnily enough, George often credits Amal with intellectually teaching him and grounding him. So they're a really good example of an age gap that has worked. And I think my biggest takeaway is that it definitely can be successful if both people really go in as equals. And of course, we know that we are all equal in dignity and worth. But what I mean from that is, both equal in confidence and in their identity, rather than someone still feeling like they're becoming and the other one feeling very established, because I think that might be a bit of a weird dynamic. And then there's Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas, and that's a 10-year age gap where she's older than him. And I think that this has worked because Nick Jonas was very emotionally mature and ready to commit when he met Priyanka. And they both had a really strong sense of self, and they were obviously both at these really high points of their careers. And they're both artists, so they have that shared experience and desires for their life to, be a creative couple. And I think from what I've seen, obviously I don't know them personally, but there's this mutual admiration rather than any competition. And I've been careful to put both men and women, as in some older men, some younger men, some older women, some younger women, in these examples, because I just think when you are a secure person, age actually is to some degree a little less relevant. It's not the be all and end all. Yeah, so I really like these couples that kind of defy the odds, especially when it's an older woman, just because that's less covered in culture and media. And I think evolutionarily, men would tend to go same age or younger. So I always think it's nice when you see these couples that are just really thriving. Another celebrity example is Jason Statham and Rosie Huntington-Whiteley. That is a 20-year age gap. And the reason why I think it works is that in some degree, when they met, Rosie was already very emotionally mature. She was already very established in herself and her career and her kind of personality that was out there. And they seem to be a very private couple. There doesn't seem to have been any drama or anything in the headlines. They really have kept their family life quite wholesome and very private out of the public eye. And I like to think that it's because they really shared a clear vision of what lifestyle they wanted together as a family and what future they wanted to build together. And there's loads of other couples, like Eva Mendes and Ryan Gosling. There's a 6-year age gap there, and she's 6 years older, I think. And there's Sam Taylor Johnson and Aaron Taylor Johnson, where there's a 23-year age gap, and he is 23 years her junior. And that seems to be a really strong relationship from what we see in the headlines. And they've really shown that they've got this long marriage, that they have this shared creativity and a strong family structure. And while their story is quite unique because the age gap is so big, and I think she met him when he was quite young, like 19 or 20. I think it's interesting to just see that these stories, these celebrity examples, you know, they invite discernment, not imitation, but just being able to see, okay, it can work. We can see that in these examples, and that can be quite freeing and can just, you know, open your horizons, especially if you meet someone and you just don't realize their age and all of a sudden you're like, oh, actually you're 10 years younger than me, or you're 9 years older than me. So I think it really is all about discernment. And that is why I genuinely think it can work, because I think that shared values matter more than shared birth years or shared birthdays. I'm very much in favor of age gaps when emotional maturity aligns, the life direction is compatible, you know, that vision for your future, and when there is mutual respect. Because ultimately, I do believe that life stage matters more than a number. Like if you're both at the same life stage, it might be that one is 25, really seeking a long-term, you know, someone to marry, and the other person is 35 and in the same position. Like that's in the same life stage, that's in the same value, the same alignment, the same vision for the future. And in that regard, I don't think they should be seen as that different, because I don't think it's age gaps that cause problems. I think it's misalignment of values, of ideas, of shared dreams and what you want to build. And sometimes maturity just isn't measured in years, but rather in that responsibility of heart and that emotional intelligence. So ultimately, I really believe that compatibility is about direction rather than date of birth. And I'll be honest that I have met some guys who have been my age or older, and they have been really unintentional, you know, just maybe asking me out on a whim, not really having a direction for their own lives. And I've had guys literally 12 years my junior asking me out, and in positions where I'm actually like, you know, like these guys who just seem to have it together. They seem to have their vision and their desires for life and what they can offer and what they want to receive from another person really clear. And that has been really humbling for me, because I think the idea that someone automatically has their life together at 30 or 40 just isn't necessarily true, in the same regards that a 20-something might not still be in this, you know, decade of self-discovery. They might be really ready to settle down and have made the moves to do that, which is why I think intentionality matters way more than age. As does finding someone when you're grounded in your identity rather than in seeking validation. I think the age argument can come from a lot of this public perception we have that, you know, maybe women should date older or men should date younger, or whatever the idea is. I think God is always inviting us to shatter any stereotypes and to just be open to his will and to just meeting someone. Sometimes you're going to meet people who you're going to feel very akin to, you're going to really get on and have a vibe with, and then you're going to realize that they're 7 years younger than you, or vice versa. And I've had this in friendships as well as potential romantic partners, and I think that is really God saying that it's okay. So I would encourage you all to be open. And while I know it's a little bit harder on the apps, because obviously you're very much seeing like name, age, location, and it can feel, you know, you have your filters and you keep them probably quite close to your age, but you know, in real life, it's not necessarily like that. You might meet someone and really vibe with them and then realize you guys aren't in the same generation. And you know, that can be strange, but also it can be really freeing if there is emotional depth, shared values, and a clear sense of the same direction. I think it's worth having a conversation. But I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think about age gaps and where you would draw the line. So let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're not already, don't forget to subscribe to Salt for more Christ-centered content in this journey of dating. So wishing you a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.